Alright, Trial Mob, welcome back to another TBG feature, and today we're going over the newcomer in what is the 1/12 scale action figure line. Is this the new standard for $25 action figures? Now, I say 25 because we've been here before in terms of saying that the G.I. Joe line is one of the industry standard, we could say, but now with this newcomer on the stage, Jada Toys is coming out with some absolutely phenomenal action figures in the form of their Street Fighter line. So here we are going over the Ryu, and we're going to talk about whether or not this is the new I should say toy standard for $20, right? $25. Yeah, sure, there's a little bit of inflation, so we can go ahead and talk about that later, but man, this is an absolutely incredible figure, and from Jada Toys nonetheless. The biggest newcomer on the block did their homework before coming out with an action figure, and they're blowing everybody out of the water. So let's go ahead and go over it right now. We're going to see what makes this Ryu action figure from Jada Toys just absolutely incredible. Now, when it comes to great figures, you need a great package by which to display them in, and this is an absolutely incredible box set. If you are an in-box collector, this is a dream come true. This is an incredible looking piece. We have what basically looks like an arcade game on the outside, mixed in with some display parts that could be right out of the video game itself. We have multiple faces and characters on both sides, and upcoming characters on the back, with Ryu just looking incredible in there. If you're never going to pull this out of the box and you're just going to put it on your shelf, this is going to be a piece that's always going to stand out. I've yet to see this at a Target, but I can only imagine it's going to draw everybody's eyes as they walk by. Presentation is key, and in this case, Jada Toys has absolutely knocked it out of the park. This is a really nice looking figure that already looks nice just in the box itself, let alone pulling this bad boy out. And as you can tell, they've done a lot to this to just give it that presentation that we need. So let's go ahead and pull it out of the box. All right, so a lot going on here, but this character is just too good. Listen, we've seen Ryu before. We've seen Ryu a bunch of times in different formats, and you know, I would like to say that Jada Toys has gotten, I think, a good mix, right, for what is basically $25 to $30. And I've always said this, I think for a couple more dollars, a figure could be absolutely incredible. And I think they've done a great job of capturing overall what I believe is going to make the average consumer be very, very happy with their purchase. So as you can tell, again, Ryu comes in his gi. It's not necessarily a very intricate looking figure, but that's the reason why this is so important. What can you do with a more basic looking figure to make it look so damn good that you know that you're going to want to get others from this line? Because if they can't nail this, how are they supposed to nail other characters that are even more intricate? And so Jada Toys has done some incredible stuff here at $40. To begin with, we see that there are pinless arm designs, pinless leg designs. We see soft, I don't want to say it's not soft material, but it is like a rubbery plastic akin to, let's say, Storm Collectibles for the gi up top. The pant leg is obviously all regular plastic. The belt actually is also soft. It comes off. The red of the arms, the gauntlets, you could say, so they don't necessarily connect right. And I purposely let out a little bit of that wrist so you can see that it doesn't fully connect, but you can push that back in. But again, the color palette, the textures, I mean, they could have easily gone with a flat feel, and that's not what they went with. Okay, when it comes to accessories, again, just awesome stuff. We get the Hadouken effect plus a stand to hold it up, which does not connect into Ryu. I was kind of sad to see that it doesn't peg into like the leg or something, so that you could also use it for Ryu. But for the most part, I like what we got here. We got two other hands to give you the Hadouken stance effect. We got an angry looking face, and then that's basically everything that he comes with. So it's not necessarily super heavy on the content, but I love what they've done here. The overall aesthetic on this Ryu just looks really nice. The different poses you can put him in, the way that the angry face looks with the eyebrows going over the plastic, the Hadouken effect having the hands on the inside. I mean, when you put it all together, this is a really, really nice looking figure altogether. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into articulation. So how well does this articulate? For as good as it looks, it doesn't matter if it can't pose well. And we're going to go ahead and get into that right now. So to begin with, right, let's go ahead and have him look up about as far as he can. What I was pointing out there was the fact that you can't see a joint in the neck. It's under, it's a ball peg. I really like that. It makes the figure look very, very clean. As you can tell, he can look up a little bit, but he can look down pretty far. And of course, the head itself does a full 360, and the headband is soft plastic, so it doesn't get in the way at all. A T-pose is not a problem here. I know it looks a little uneven, but I promise you it goes up basically to a perfect T, no problem. And then that butterfly joint, which is huge for a fighting figure. It is huge for them to add this in here. And as you can tell, the range on that makes it go from very far back to very far forward. It's a great hinge. Of course, the arms go a full 360, so do the upper biceps. Double joint at the elbows, which allow it to obviously bend in different manners, but he can basically sandwich his arm all the way up. The only gripe I have is that the elbow piece looks a little funky on the front side, but to be honest, considering how much range you get with that double elbow, I'm okay with it. I will stick with it. When it comes to both wrists, be it the closed fisted hand or the Hadouken open hands, they basically all open push-up style, inwards and outwards, not up and down. They only go so far back, but you can get it basically as far back as you need it. Here, as you can tell, as I'm pushing the rubber to the side, there's definitely a lot of give there, and it allows for you to see that under he does have a sculpt that brings him up about that far and then brings him forward. This is now using mostly the top, but also the bottom of the waist articulation. So again, this guy comes with a lot going on here. Now I take off, I don't know if I took it all the way off. Let's see. Yes. So here I took off basically all of it just to show you what's going on under there. And then I'm going to give him a bend real fast just so that you can see how far forward. Look at that, man. Look at that. I should have given you guys a more clear shot from behind to see if there's any gappage, but even if there is, man, there is a whole ton of articulation there. The legs go up to 90 degrees, no problem. Everything moves out of the way as it should without necessarily utilizing a drop down hip, which I actually really prefer. He can kick his own ass with that double knee joint. And then of course we do get a pivot and hinge at the bottom, which allows him to go really far down, really far up. The ankle itself twists, and then if you go for that toe hinge or that ankle hinge, as you can tell, the pivot goes really far. They knocked it out of the park when it comes to articulation with Ryu. There's absolutely no problems here in terms of getting him into the poses that you're going to want. Okay, so let's go ahead and move over into the next part here, which is going to be size comparisons. So starting off with the brand that I'm sure you guys want to see, Storm Collectibles. Here we have Mike Tyson. As you can tell, Storm Collectibles tends to be a bit bigger. In this case, Mike Tyson's probably supposed to be about Ryu's height, but in this case, he's a whole head bigger. I wouldn't really say that this is going to be close enough. Maybe in certain photography, you'll get good light or good angles out of it, but this doesn't scale all that well. Now, still within Storm Collectibles, but changing into another character, we have Paul Phoenix. Paul is actually a really tall character. I looked up what his height is supposed to be and seeing how big he is compared to everybody else. He's a big boy. I don't know if they made him too big, but regardless, it's just not going to scale well no matter how much you try. I mean, he's about as tall as Sagat would have to be next to a character like Ryu at this scale. So even though they're both technically 1/12 scale figures based on 6-inch scale, as you can tell, they're wildly different. So basically anything you have that's Storm Collectibles is just not going to fit Ryu very well. However, as we change over to SH Figure Arts, we start to see that the Dragon Ball Z characters are a lot more closer in scale. And otherwise, if you want Ryu fighting Goku, this isn't necessarily out of scale. This could actually work. This is a lot more closer for you to be able to do photography and things like that. You know, here we have Jiren, and this is actually the bigger version of Jiren. where he's just the slightest bit taller, but overall more buffer. But as you can tell, the fit is pretty nice. And then switching over to some robot spirits, we have a Zaku 2. As you can tell, Gundam always tends to be really, really tiny. So, you know, you would never probably have these together in the same photography, but it is nice to see that anything of that size, unless you get the new Kenbu, the new Kenbu is probably more in line with the Ryu's height, but the normal Gundam Zaku stuff, and just in general, it's going to be a lot smaller. Now switching over to the Mafex Armored Batman. Now at first glance this might seem to not necessarily match up all that well because Batman just looks absolutely massive. But the reality is, right, he's an armored character next to somebody who's wearing no armor. And he also has spikes under his boots that make him a lot taller. If you were to put Batman into a gi, he'd probably be almost identical to Ryu's height probably. So I would say this actually doesn't scale half bad. Again, you're probably not going to do it, but still pretty cool. And then last but not least, here we have Frieza. And again, this is what I'm saying in terms of the overall height and size. Here we have Frieza standing next to Ryu, and this looks like it could be done. Is there a custom coming up? Do I hear customs? Potentially. But yeah, anyways, when it comes to Frieza's overall size, he's obviously very, very small. But that means that you can put people like Krillin, Tien, and other characters, you know, next to this Ryu figure, and the overall scale is going to be pretty nice. Now, switching over to the Kyoto line, we have one of the Dorok soldiers. This is from Nausicaa Valley of the Wind. I highly recommend this stuff if you're a Nausicaa fan, Studio Ghibli fan. I really like these. As you can tell, they are smaller, just like SH Figuarts. They tend to be a little bit smaller. This isn't really ever going to look 100% right unless Ryu's a giant. So there's that, but for the most part, I do highly recommend these figures, and I will give you guys a full review in the future. But I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys a little size comparison. Now, when it comes to a $20 figure, the main thing is playability. And that is kind of where the money really comes into play in terms of its value. When you buy a $20 figure, you can be rough with it, you can throw it around, it can drop from a shelf and not break. I mean, you're basically paying less money for a character that you can have the same amount of playability, if not better, than more expensive figures without necessarily needing to worry about it. You know, right? They use rougher plastics, they use more coarse stuff. And I feel like that's the reason why I really like this Ryu, and overall why I really like this figure. The playability is incredibly high. The joints aren't tight and they're not loose. They just kind of move with no problem, and they look very nice because while you can't see some of the joints, it is pinless, which allows it to look a bit more nicer than it would be. It has soft plastics, soft rubbery plastics. I mean, look, here I am trying to put him in a basically a pose where he stands up on his own. He can do it. At some point in this, I was able to do it. But that's my point, right? The playability, the posability. This guy does not fight against you when you're trying to put him into different poses, when you're trying to do different things with him. He is able to, you know, knock it out of the park and really get the poses that you want. You know, you can switch out the hands. He can do a full splits, as you can see right there. I mean, playability for $25 is high. But rather than to feel like some, I hate to say it, let's say shitty figure, he feels very high quality. He feels like more than the $25 that you're spending on this. He feels a lot closer to, you know, maybe not, let's say, a $50, $60 SH Figuarts character, but he feels relatively a lot closer to a medium where we could say, if I paid $40 for this guy, I wouldn't necessarily be mad. So to get this guy at $25, it's a steal. And for the quality that you're getting, for the things that Jada Toys has done here, double jointed elbows and knees, soft plastics, multiple heads, multiple hands. This is a figure that without a doubt earns its money. It earns the fact that while it's $25, you're putting it towards a brand that seems to actually listen and care about its consumers and what it's trying to give you here. So for me, yes, without a doubt, this Ryu is an incredible character. That's, I think, a 10 on 10 on overall quality, a 10 on 10 on overall playability. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this for $25. You know I said that G.I. Joe was a standard, but I have to change and say that they have been pushed over by Jada Toys, and I can only imagine what's coming next in their lineup. So when it comes down to it, this is a well-articulated figure that you can do a lot of posing with, that comes with just the right amount of accessories and overall quality things that we are looking for in an action figure, with double jointed knees, pinless joints. They didn't skimp on the butterfly articulation. They could have, I mean, that's what I mean, right? They could have easily have just given us a figure with no butterfly articulation and said, make it work. Instead, here we have the butterfly joints, and they're very deep. You know, we have shading around the body that allows the figure to look a lot better. You know, soft plastics all throughout. You know, the fact that I can get him into a position that is this deep is just incredible for me. So ultimately, I think that if you guys are thinking about, you know, SH Figure Arts is a little expensive, Storm Collectibles is, as you can tell, really big. You know, I have a smaller budget. For $100, I want to be able to get 4 figures instead of just 1. I think Jada Toys here has come up with a solution for you. Something that's quality, something that feels like you're getting way more than what your money would suggest, right? Again, a $25 figure that feels like a $40 figure is always going to be really good. You know, it just goes to show you what else they're going to do. I mean, they're going to do, I'm sure, deluxe figures in the future. What is a deluxe figure of a, you know, Street Fighter figure going to look like, going to feel like, going to come with? Different hands, different heads. So there's a lot going for this line, and I really have to tip off my hat to Jada Toys. I highly recommend this line, and I highly recommend that you guys buy from them, because this is what's going to give Hasbro a run for its money. This is what's going to make them have to make better figures. But anyways, let me know what you guys think of this, and let me know if you're going to cop one, and I'll see you guys on the next one.